Hi there. So this is video 3 of this latest video series that I'm doing. And in the first video, I talked about our stories being too much, and I talked about rage and anger, and how we have the right to our feelings and to expressing our feelings, with the caveat that we're not physically harming other people. Um, In the second video, I talked about our stories of not being good enough, not being enough, and the long list of shoulds that can go with that. And today I wanted to talk about shame and um, and how shame not only feeds these stories of not enough and too much, it also feeds off of these stories. So it just snowballs, right? So shame is pretty insidious. It it is part of those stories of too much and not enough, right? If there wasn't shame involved in either of those, in both of those, they wouldn't matter, right? If we didn't feel shame at being too loud or too opinionated, too bold, too whatever, we didn't feel shame about that, it wouldn't matter, right? Who cares? I'm being loud, so what, right? But there's shame in that. There is shame. We are told that it is shameful to be these things. It's wrong and it's bad. And it makes us wrong and bad if we are these things. Same with not being enough, right? And our long list of shoulds, right? If shame weren't involved with our not being good enough, our not being worthy, our not being deserving, like that's all about shame. That's all about being ashamed of who we are and what we are and what our needs are or where our needs are, right? Shame is part of that. It is the core of those things. So, as many of you know, part of what I do in person is that I am a grief counselor. And one of the groups that I co facilitate is called Survivors of Suicide. And it is for, this particular SOS group is for partners um, who have, it's for surviving partners whose partner has completed suicide. And something that has come up in that group a lot is that um, their partners didn't die because there's a lot of talk in suicide prevention and suicide groups that people die of depression and they die of anxiety, and that that is what feeds the story that killing yourself is a better option, right? So what has come up in this grief group is that, yes, perhaps they were depressed, their partner, but what really triggered them to kill themselves was shame. Shame at having lost their job and not being able to find a new one as quickly as they wanted. Shame at having just been separated from their lifetime partner. Shame of losing money in the stock market. Now, these particular single events, right, aren't like the thing that would make someone want to kill themselves. These things happen to people all the time, right? And if there's been a lifetime of buildup of told how you're wrong, you're bad, You're not worthy. You're not good enough. You have the wrong color skin. You have the wrong sexual orientation. You have the wrong, whatever the wrong thing is, right? You have a lifetime of this story. You have the wrong genitalia, right? You're fed this story over and over and over. There is a last straw. There's a last shame straw. There's shame in even talking about mental health issues, right? And I don't want to belittle the importance of becoming aware of depression and anxiety and other mental health issues, other disorders as they are called in the profession, and because depression and anxiety exist, right? These things exist. They're not made up. They're real. And shame, I really feel shame feeds them. Because you're in a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation again. It's shameful to be depressed in the first place. It's more shameful to not be able to pull yourself out of it on your own. It's even more shameful to go and get treatment, right? To try and pull yourself out of it, right? And there's shame in that. So what I'm saying to you is that shame can kill us. And I'm not being dramatic. And I'm not being over whatever. I have a room full of people twice a month who talk about how ashamed of who they were, their partners were, and how that shame ate away at them and ultimately caused them to decide it would be better to die than continue living. These are things for us to think about. These are things for us to consider. And there isn't a type that feels shame, right? I look at my room of of um, of survivors of suicide. I look at these men and women, and their partners were men, were women, were straight, were gay, were Asian, were white, were black, were right, were well off financially, were poor, right? There's not, this shame is insidious. And yes, I feel like sometimes certain aspects of our culture do feel more shame. There's more shame, for example, in being poor than in being wealthy, right? And being wealthy doesn't make you immune, right? So the thing about shame is that it wants us silent. Shame doesn't want us expressing that we're depressed, that we're anxious, that we're angry, that we're whatever, right? That we feel shame with who we are, right? Because our culture, it's all about silver lining. It's all about looking on the bright side, and it's all about bootstraps, and it's all about, well, you can change your life if you just, like, I don't know, have the magical formula and do it, right? And anyone will sell you that magical formula. And I'm not selling you a magical formula. And, right, the shame is everywhere. And if we start to voice it and name spades, right? Instead of dancing around issues and pretending that, depression only affects certain types of people, or um, or if we work hard enough, because this is part of that shame story, man. It's telling you you're not working hard enough and you're killing yourself trying to do all the things. So if we start voicing it and saying, I feel ashamed of, I feel shame about, I feel sadness, I feel anger, I feel frustration, I yelled at my kids today, I yelled at my partner today, I only, for God's sake, there's shame in what we fucking eat, right? I mean, there's no part of our lives that is left alone because it goes into the shoulds, right? We should eat healthy. We shouldn't eat junk food. We shouldn't eat soda. We shouldn't, or drink soda. We shouldn't, right? Blah, 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 blah. We should only be eating greens, and we should only be vegan, or we should only be paleo, or we should never eat dairy, or we should always eat eggs, or, right? I mean, whatever the fucking story is, right? Down to the food we eat, there's shame. There's shame in what we choose to put in our bodies and how we choose to do it and how often we choose to do it. You're not eating enough. You're eating too much. Right? It is everywhere. We are being shamed constantly. And it's all about not being enough and being too much. And we're shamed for it. So, what do, right? We say fuck you to the system. We say fuck you to shame. We start voicing it. We start being honest with ourselves, right? My husband and I today were just having a conversation in the car about, he's having some health issues and he's trying to eat healthier, right? And to work through those. And he was saying how he gets really tired of greens, right? I hate greens. Like, I'll eat them every now and then, but I hate greens. I hate them. I'll make green smoothies. I'll put greens in, like, as long as I don't taste them, I'm okay. But I hate greens. I don't like them. And they're full of nutrients and they're so good for you and you should be eating them every day and blah, 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 blah. But I hate them. So why do I have to eat them? Right? Sorry, there's some weird pop-up. I'm making it go bye-bye. So my point is, there's shame in anything and everything we do. There's shame in how we dress, right? Because we either don't have nice enough clothes, or or our clothes don't fit us the right way, or we're wearing clothes that we shouldn't wear because they're too young or too old for us, or right? The list fucking goes on, right? It's exhausting. It's exhausting thinking about these long lists of how we don't measure up, of how we're not okay. We're okay. I'm okay the way I am. You are okay the way you are. You don't need to be better. You don't need to be different. You don't need to eat better. You don't need to dress different. You don't need to do tons of personal fucking growth. You don't need to do any of it. You are okay exactly as you are. How does that feel? Like I hear the buzz, right? I hear the buzz coming from all of you already. With all the like, well, yeah, buts, right? I yelled at my kids today, or I didn't get the laundry done, or I haven't been. I've been eating chili cheese Fritos all week, or, right? I drink Cokes and blah 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 blah. Right? I hear it. I hear you. I hear you feeding the stories. And they're stories, and they're there to keep you quiet and complacent and not doing anything to change the system, or truly to throw out the system and create a new one. I don't know if the system can be changed. I don't know if it can be changed. I think I said in one of my other videos in this series already that I don't think it can. I think we need a new system. Change doesn't happen within. That's story. I think some change can happen. Sure, some. But I think big picture, we need to just overthrow it. And the way we overthrow it is we start tuning into ourselves. We start recognizing our stories. We start voicing our stories. We start looking at our stories. We start supporting other women as they look at their stories. We call out their stories, right? And we support each other. Part of our culture is that we are supposed to be tearing each other down as women and as men, right? We're supposed to be tearing each other down. We are not supposed to build each other up. We are not, absolutely not supposed to accept ourselves or each other as we are. We're not supposed to do that. We're not supposed to be okay with people being angry. We're not supposed to be okay with people being sad. We're not supposed to be okay with people being frustrated or flustered or blah, 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 like whatever, right? We're not supposed to be okay with that. We're supposed to really encourage everybody to be shiny, happy people. It's okay to be shiny and happy if you're authentically shiny and happy, then great. Be shiny and happy. Be as shiny and happy as you want to be. Go for it. And 5 minutes later, if you're sad, you get to be sad. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with the full human experience. And it is a full human experience, right? Humans were not meant to be happy 24 hours a day. We are not meant to be calm and peaceful 24 hours a day. And we are especially not meant to be calm and peaceful if we're being oppressed and tortured, right? So, shame is everywhere. And I invite you to think about that over the next few days. Think about how shame is fed in your life. And it is. I'm just going to tell you right now, it is. So just assume that's the baseline, right? And if you really don't think it is, just play devil's advocate and just say, okay, so if shame were like really a part of my life and experience, what would it look like here, right? Just humor me. And I really do believe that it is the baseline for all of us. So, we get to look at those stories. And it didn't start with our mothers, and it didn't start with our grandmothers. This has been going on for millennia. This is not some new like 21st century experience. This is the experience of patriarchal culture that has been going on for millennia. Millennia. So, I'm going to stop there. Sending you love. I will have one more video, and in it I'm going to talk about the next circle and what we're going to be doing in there. And it's called Exploring Our Shadows, the stories of too much, not enough, and the shame that feeds them. And we're going to be looking at this stuff, and it's going to be for 6 months, and it's going to be fabulous. So I'm going to talk more about that circle tomorrow. Or not tomorrow, whenever I send you the next video. And that's it. So think about how shame impacts your life. Think about how you feed your own shame and how it's fed by others. Your shame is fed by others. Okay, sending love. See you soon.